There are days when you wake up, look out the window, and it seems like the world outside is spinning at a different speed. Cars speed by, people at bus stops have their eyes glued to their cell phones, and it seems like everything around you has become more distant. You try to remember what you needed to do today, but your thoughts slip away as if your mind is trying to say something your heart doesn't understand yet. And then that feeling comes, that strange mixture of emptiness and longing. You don't really know what it is. Maybe it's the time that has passed. Maybe it's the people who are no longer around. Maybe it's a version of yourself that, at some point along the way, was left behind. If you're over 60, you've probably felt this at least once. And if you have, you need to listen carefully to what we're going to say here today. Because this feeling that comes and goes like a silent shadow can be a warning, a cry for help coming from within. And ignoring it can be costly. We're not just talking about health, but about life, time, meaning, and most importantly, a new beginning. So, before we continue, I ask you to do something very simple. If this video has touched you in any way, if any of these words have made sense or brought back memories, then subscribe to the channel now. Click below, activate the bell, and share it with someone who also deserves to hear this. Because this content was made for you with respect, with truth, and with the sole purpose of reminding you of something that the world sometimes forgets. You are still here, and there is still so much to live for. Now take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's walk through this story together. It was early fall when Mr. Joao began to notice that the days were passing more slowly. He had been living alone since Dona Lucia, his wife of more than 4 decades, had passed away. The house seemed bigger, the silence more present. Joao kept to his routine. He woke up early, made his black coffee without sugar, fed the birds in the backyard, and watched the same TV shows. But something was different. There was a restlessness he couldn't name. It wasn't physical pain, nor was it obvious sadness. It was a feeling of displacement, as if life had moved on and he had been left behind at a point where no one else passed by. His children, busy with their commitments in the big city, called from time to time. His grandchildren grew up and visits became rarer. First, Joao understood. After all, he had also been young and busy once. But over time, that understanding gave way to doubt. Was he still needed? Did his presence still matter? One morning, while watering the plants in the yard, Joao felt something different. A tightness in his chest, not the kind that causes pain, but the kind that squeezes with memories. He remembered the smell of the cornmeal cake that Lucia used to bake on Sundays. He remembered her laughter from inside the house, the rainy afternoons they spent together watching life go by from the porch. He remembered when life was noisy, and now everything was silent. It was on that day that Joao decided to go out. He put on his favorite shirt, the light blue one that Lucia said matched his eyes, and walked to the square. He sat on his usual wooden bench and watched the world go by. Children ran, elderly people played cards, vendors passed by with their carts. For the first time in a long time, Joao felt like he was part of something. But the feeling didn't last long. A group of young people approached, talking loudly, laughing at something on their cell phones. One of them bumped into Joao and didn't even apologize. Another commented that the old man was standing there like a statue. Joao lowered his eyes. The feeling of invisibility came back with a vengeance. He went home early, and that night he had trouble sleeping. The feeling of displacement, of uselessness, that the world was moving on and he was being left behind, took over. And maybe you watching this know that feeling. Maybe you've also felt that after 60, 70, it seems like people start listening to you less, looking at you less, considering you less. But let me tell you something. It's not your fault. And it's not true that you've lost value. The modern world is fast-paced, but that doesn't mean it's right. There is wisdom in those who have lived longer, in those who have cried and laughed intensely, in those who have lost, fallen, and gotten up more times than many even dream of. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Because when you feel that emptiness that Joao felt, that nameless tightness, it can be a sign. A sign that you need to reconnect. Not with the fast-paced world, but with your own essence. With what makes you feel alive. With the moments when you didn't feel alone. And it is possible to do that. Even at 60. Even at 70. Even at 90. Joao didn't know it yet, but that day in the square was the beginning of something new. He just needed to listen to what his heart had been trying to tell him for a long time. And maybe that's what yours is trying to tell you too. And that's why this video exists, to help you listen, and to remind you that it's never too late to rediscover life. If this story has spoken to you so far, if you saw a piece of yourself in Joao's words, if something inside you started to stir, then don't forget. Subscribe to the channel, leave your comment below telling us how old you are, and how you've been feeling lately. Your voice matters, and your place is here with us. Now let's move on, because Joao's story is just beginning, and so is yours. Joao woke up the next day with his head full of thoughts. The night had been difficult. The comments of the young people in the square still echoed in his mind like an open wound. He tried not to think about it, but it was inevitable. The question that kept running through his mind was simple and painful at the same time. Had he become invisible? He made coffee but didn't drink it. He sat down on the porch chair and just sat there watching the world go by. The rustling of the leaves in the yard, the birds singing, the neighbor's dog barking every morning. Everything seemed the same, but he knew something had changed inside. And when change comes from within, the whole world begins to respond differently. That's when he saw an envelope under the door. It wasn't junk mail or a bill. It was a letter, handwritten. Joao opened it curiously, and when he read the first line, his heart raced. "Mr. Joao, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Raphael, Mrs. Odette's grandson, who lived next door to you years ago." The letter continued. Raphael recounted how, as a child, Joao had taught him to fly a kite, fix bicycle tires, and take care of plants. He said he never forgot those days and that as an adult, he thought a lot about the people who had marked his childhood. He had returned to town to visit his grandmother at the cemetery and passed by Joao's house. He saw him on the porch and decided to write. "I wanted to thank you for everything. You were a bigger part of my life than you know." Joao finished reading with tears in his eyes. That letter was like a beacon in the fog. He still mattered. He was still remembered. There were still stories being told about him. Even when he thought the world had forgotten him, clicked in his mind. If he could be remembered like this, then how many other stories could he still live? He decided to leave the house again. He returned to the square, this time with his head held high. He sat on the same bench, but now his gaze was different. He was more attentive, more curious. He watched people with different eyes. That's when he saw Mrs. Marina. She was walking slowly, leaning on her cane, but with a lively look in her eyes. She sat down 2 benches away. Joao thought about waving but hesitated, until she looked straight at him and smiled. "Can I sit here?" Joao nodded, and there they began to talk. Marina was a widow like him. She was 68 years old, had 3 children, and a huge desire to continue living. They talked for over an hour. About music, old movies, about missing loved ones, and also about hope. Joao returned home feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time: enthusiasm. In the days that followed, he and Marina began to meet frequently. Sometimes in the square, other times walking through the neighborhood streets. Joao began to sleep better, eat with more appetite, and take care of his appearance. But there was something else. Something he didn't yet understand. A silent fear. Because along with the joy of living again came the fear of losing it all again. One day, during one of their conversations, Marina shared a story. She talked about a friend who started feeling palpitations and fatigue, but thought it was just her age. She ignored it for months. When she finally decided to get it checked out, it was advanced depression in disguise. Marina said she only got better when she started talking about how she felt. Joao was quiet for a while. Then he confessed that he also sometimes felt tightness in his chest, but thought it was just nostalgia. Nostalgia is a living thing, Joao. But when it becomes heavy and paralyzing, it's good to take a closer look. Those words kept hammering in his mind. What he had been feeling for months. Could it be more than loneliness? Was it his body warning him that something emotional was going beyond the limit? He started researching, talking to other people. He discovered that many elderly people feel the same way. A silent sadness that undermines their spirits, their memory, their health. And that, yes, the lack of purpose, of social interaction, of feeling useful, can affect the body like a disease. Joao decided to make a change. He went to the health center, made an appointment, and spoke openly with the doctor. The diagnosis was not serious, but it was real. "Mr. Joao, you are healthy, but you have clear signs of emotional exhaustion. You need to reconnect. What do you love to do? Joao thought about it. He loved music, writing, talking. So the doctor recommended, go back to doing that. And if possible, share it with other people. The following week, Joao took his son's old guitar out of the closet. It was out of tune but intact. He sat down in the square and started playing. The music attracted attention, children approached, adults stopped to listen. By the end of the afternoon, he had gathered a small audience. The square was filled with life, and he was filled with meaning. In the days that followed, it became a routine. Marina started accompanying him with a small drum. Other neighbors began bringing chairs. Someone suggested a name, the Sunset Club. Every week, in the late afternoon, elderly people from the neighborhood began to gather there. To listen to music, tell stories, exchange recipes, laugh. Joao began to write texts and read them aloud. Marina taught natural tea recipes and simple healthcare. The square became a meeting place, not just for people, but for memories, hope, new beginnings. But the climax was yet to come. One afternoon, while Joao was playing and smiling, a man approached. Well-dressed, discreet. He sat down for a while, listened, applauded. Then he stood up and said, "Good afternoon. My name is Claudio. I work for a foundation that supports social projects. And what you are doing here is much bigger than it seems." Joao smiled, surprised. Claudio continued, "There are a lot of people out there who need to see what happens here. They need to remember that it is possible to live well even after 60, 70, 80. Would you allow us to tell your story?" Joao didn't know what to say. Marina squeezed his hand. "You started all this, Joao. Now let the world see." And at that moment he realized that feeling that had hurt so much before, that doubt that had accompanied him in silence, had now been transformed. He wasn't invisible. He never had been. He just needed to see himself again. And maybe that's what you need too. Before continuing this story, let me ask you something quick. If you've been moved so far, if you've seen a part of yourself in what Joao has experienced, then click on the subscribe button below. Leave a like, comment your age, and tell me, have you ever felt this way at some point in your life? Your experience matters, your voice makes a difference, and this channel exists to show that every story, every phase, every feeling experienced after the age of 60 deserves to be told. Now let's continue with the story. When Joao received the invitation from that foundation, he thought it would be something small. A simple recording, maybe a video for their website. But when the team arrived with cameras, microphones, lights, and even a drone flying over the square, he realized it was bigger than that. Claudio, the man from the foundation, explained, "We want to tell stories that show how maturity is a new chance to flourish." And that's exactly what happens here. Joao hesitated. He never liked being in the spotlight. He had always been discreet and shy. But something inside him said it was time to let the world see what he had rediscovered. The team spent 2 days with the group. They recorded the meetings, the songs, the recipes, the conversations. They recorded Joao reading his texts and Dona Marina teaching how to make chamomile tea with orange. They recorded laughter, glances, moments of silence that said more than words. And then, a few days later, the video was published. First, there were few comments. "It's beautiful to see that there is still kindness in the world. My grandmother would see this and cry. It reminded me of my father, who played the guitar on the porch." But in a few days, the video went viral. People from all over the country started watching, sharing, commenting. Joao started receiving letters, messages, even visitors. People who saw themselves in him, who felt the same emptiness, who now, seeing his story, felt hope again. And that's when everything changed. A TV station got in touch. They wanted to do a bigger story, to showcase the Sunset Club as an example of a project with social impact. The city government, pressured by the publicity, offered infrastructure. New benches, lighting, a small stage. The club grew. More people started coming. Elderly people came from distant neighborhoods, young people came, families came. The square became a meeting place for different generations. Joao, who had thought his time had passed, was now a role model. And he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, purpose. But it wasn't all fun and games. One day Marina didn't show up. Joao thought it was strange. He called her and knocked on her door. No one answered. He found out that she had been taken to the hospital. Heart problems. Joao went to visit her. She was pale but smiling. "It's nothing serious," she said. "Just my body reminding me that it needs care." They talked for hours. They laughed, reminisced, made plans. "When I get out of here, I want us to have a party with only old dances," said Marina. Joao smiled. "It'll be the liveliest party ever." But days passed, and Marina didn't get any better. The medical team started talking about intensive care. Joao felt the ground give way beneath him. The woman who had helped him out of the darkness was now fighting to keep the light on. He started visiting her every day. He brought flowers, read poems, told her what was happening in the square. She listened to everything, her eyes tired but alive. "You brought back what I thought I had lost, Joao. You made me feel like I was part of something again." He held her hand. "You made me believe again. We saved each other." That night, Joao returned home, looked up at the sky, and cried silently. He understood that this was what life was all about. A cycle of encounters and departures, of smiles and goodbyes. And that every moment lived intensely was worth more than years of silence. Marina got better. Slowly. With patience. And a month later, she returned to the square. When she arrived, everyone applauded. Joao was waiting for her with flowers. And together they danced to the first song they had danced to when they met. It was an unforgettable day. But the best was yet to come. Inspired by everything he had experienced, Joao decided to write a book. He gathered his stories, his writings, his reflections. He called the book, "When the Sun Sets, Life Begins." He published it with the help of the foundation. And the book became a symbol. Schools used it in classes, support groups distributed it in nursing homes, NGOs translated it into other languages. Joao, who once thought his story was over, now inspired new pages in so many other lives. And if you are here, following along so far, it is because you felt something along the way. Maybe you recognized yourself in Joao. Maybe in Marina. Maybe you just felt you needed to hear that there is still time. And there is. There always is. Time to take care of your body, your soul, the story you can still write. So once again, if you've made it this far and haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Click here, turn on the bell, and comment on how you felt. This helps not only the channel but also helps other people see this content. Because together we are a big sunset club. And if this video touched you, know this. The next chapter is already on its way. And it will remind you that the best of life may still be ahead. So stay with us. Because this isn't just a channel. It's a reunion. See you in the next video.